morning. My name is Celia Young. It is my greatest pleasure to be your worship associate this morning. On behalf of Tapestry, a Unitarian Universalist congregation, I want to welcome you. And thanks to the modern technology that allows us to gather electronically. As a welcoming congregation, we embrace diversity based on race, culture, gender, gender expression, sexual orientation, age, social class, and immigration status. Although we are socially distant, but we are spiritually connected. We are here to practice loving our neighbors and loving our whole self. In this difficult time, I like to remind us that no one should be isolated because we are all in it together. I like to suggest that you check in on your favorite social media platform and to tell your friends how you are spending your Sunday morning. And if you have a chalice or a candle, get it ready. This way we'll be able to light it together when it's time to do it. In order to honor a worship time together and minimize the distraction, please, once again, mute your microphone and only use the chat function when you're invited to do so. To get a sense of a community, please let us see your beautiful faces. I know that some of you are in your pajamas, but we don't care if there's holes in it. It is great to reconnect with members, old friends, new friends this morning. Now, everyone, please use the next minute or so to extend a warm greeting to each other by using the chat function. It is so great to see everyone connecting with each other. You can continue your chats after the service. We are a very busy congregation. There are so many events and activities coming up at Tapestry. Of course, all these events have been converted to online format. You can find information about all the Tapestry events and announcements in the order of service, the newsletter, and on our website. I assure you that you will not run out of activities to get involved in. And this is the best way to continue to feel connected to this loving community during this difficult time. Now, I'd like to invite our VP of Finance, Paul Bonfanti, to give us an update on our pledge campaign.
Hi, everybody. Hope you're all doing well. So I wanted to start today by saying thank you to everyone for making your pledges and for your generosity. We have good news. The large majority of folks have pledged, and we right now are looking at about $170,000 worth of pledges. So congratulations and thank you, everybody. Our pledge target is about 200,000. So we're a lot of the way there, which is not atypical of this time. We are still waiting to hear from a few of you. So if you haven't made your pledge yet, please do. You can do that through the website. And we're going to be making, we might be making a little bit of targeted outreach to folks who we normally hear from, but especially at this difficult time, receiving so much generosity and such a commitment from all of you is touching and reaffirming what an important place Tapestry is in your hearts and what an important place you are in the Tapestry community. So once again, thank you for everyone. We will be at the annual general meeting in May. We will be coming to you with a budget with all this information.
The theme of this month's sermon is the exploration of God. Chinese culture is over 4,600 years old. I was brought up with this cultural heritage, which is stronger than any imported religion. It was not God, but Confucianism that provided the structure and the right and wrong. Ordinary people organize their life based on their respect for their elders and ancestors. In addition to Confucianism, Taoism is the other school of principles that dictated Chinese life. It is more grounded in the nature, like many indigenous believe. We have a very healthy respect for the natural things around us. Although I have never seriously looked at whether God existed, I was raised to respect the spirit in animated and unanimated, even unanimated beings. When I was a teenager, there was a period when my mother used to take me to a different place of worship every Sunday. Catholic this week, Baptist next week, Buddhist temple the following week, and the Taoist another week, so on and so on. I finally asked her what we're doing. She said, "Honey, we're buying insurance. We cannot afford to offend anybody's God." In my mother's mind, she not only was an equal opportunity worship participant, she also wanted to make sure we cover all bases. And as I became an adult, I have formed a belief that there's something that's bigger than our individual selves. I call this collective unconsciousness and human spirit that live at the core of our being. This belief has served me well and kept me hopeful. Every time when there is a disaster such as fire, flood, hurricane, and plane crash, plenty of people come out and help with their effort and their money. Strangers helping strangers seems to demonstrate the basic goodness of human being. This act of goodness is showing us everywhere now, especially during the COVID-19 crisis. When we peel off our layers of ego, we are love and compassion. These are the basic gifts of being human. Whether we believe in God or any other names, I trust the human spirit. We just need to cut through all the noises and follow the deepest voice in ourselves. There's a saying that God lives in the quietest part of our hearts. This world desperately needs our true self. This morning, as we each light our flaming chalice, the central symbol of our Unitarian Universalist heritage, please remember, in the world filled with the darkness of ignorance, let us bring a light of reason. In the world filled with the darkness of despair, may we share the light of hope. In the world filled with the darkness of hate, let us shine the light of love. Please join me in the saying our covenant, followed by the song of affirmation. You can find words and lyrics in your order of service and on your computer monitor. But continue to mute your microphone since the Zoom technology doesn't support simultaneous sound perfectly. Love is the spirit of this congregation. Service is His law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek truth in love, and to help one another.
speak to the God, the goddess, the spirit of life, the eternal. We speak to the mysterious thread that connects us one to the other and to the universe. We speak to the deep wisdom at the center of our beings. We embody the yearning of all people. So let us go now into the depth of the faith that is unique to each of us, and yet still the same. Let us be truly together in this time of worship this morning. Welcome to Tapestry. It's great to see all of your faces. We'll join now in singing our opening hymn, Spirit of Life. Every Sunday, as we gather in worship, we pause to lift up the sorrows and celebrations that shape our lives. When we're together in person, we're able to also light candles in silent recognition of those joys and sorrows. I have no doubt that that table would be full of flaming candles today. As a reminder, you can always email me sorrows or celebrations to be spoken aloud. I also want to pause and let anyone who would like to use the chat function to share their sorrows or celebrations with the community this morning. And in addition to those, Peggy Thompson sent us a silver lining, I'll call it. She writes that Jose, a teenage boy from Guatemala that she's been visiting at Adelanto for the last 8 months, was finally released from custody by a federal judge on Thursday due to his fragile health and vulnerability to the coronavirus. That occurred after 888 days in ICE detention. We are glad that he is out. And for anyone who's on the phone who may not be able to see the chat box, I'm going to read those aloud. Paul Bonfanti writes, please keep our friend John in your thoughts. He's stationed on the USS Roosevelt and is suffering from COVID-19. Jenny Ellsworth writes thoughts for our friend Ashley, whose father passed away this week. Christine Kruger shares, my sister's friend Dina in Chicago is in the hospital with COVID-19. Marcia Medina shares with everyone that they're sad that attempts to save the Pilgrim have failed. The Pilgrim is a tall ship at Dana Point Harbor. You've probably seen the news. It was a real loss to our community this week when it sank. And then Rona writes, my dear friends in New Jersey have a daughter undergoing chem treatment with complications. That may be chemo, I'm not certain. She has to be in the hospital, but her parents can't visit her. Yes, there are other, actually Tapestry members in care facilities that are really unable to receive visitors, including their own family members. It is a rough time out there. For these joys and sorrows that have been spoken aloud, and for the many, many others that remain in our hearts, would you join me in reading our congregational response? For your joys, we join you in celebration. For your sorrows and concerns, may you feel our compassion. For all that is spoken and unspoken, may the caring of our beloved community sustain you.
Good morning, everybody. For today's Time for All Ages, the story is entitled Maybe, a story about the endless potential in all of us. Have you ever wondered why you are here? You are the only you there will ever be, ever has been, or ever will be. You have so much to offer. Maybe you will invent something that no one else has ever seen before. Maybe you will build things that reach high into the sky. Your life is yours. Try as many things as you can try. See as much as you can see. Wherever you go, take your hopes, pack your dreams, and never forget, it is on journeys that discoveries are made. Maybe you will help others to see the beauty in each day. Or maybe you will lift cheering crowds onto their feet. Do everything with love. Follow your heart and see where it leads you. Maybe you are here to shine a light into places that have been dark for far too long. Maybe you will speak up for those who can't speak for themselves. Maybe you are here to help in ways that only you can. There will be struggles, there will be fears, and it won't always be easy. At times it will feel really hard, and you might make a mess of things. You may fall down. You may fail. But you will always get back up, and you will rise a little stronger and a little taller. Because there really is more inside of you than you know. And this world needs your gifts, your talents, your big ideas, and maybe you are just getting started. What if you are only scratching the surface of what you can do and who you can be? What if you have talents you haven't discovered yet? There is something powerful, even magical, about you. You already have everything it takes to do big things. Maybe you have no idea just how good you really can be. And maybe you don't know how much you matter. Maybe, just maybe, the world has been waiting centuries for someone exactly like you. One thing is for sure, you are here. And because you are here, anything is possible. The end.
As we move into our responsive reading this morning, I just wanted to remind you, some of you may not be aware, Rob is also doing virtual religious education classes with our children before and after the service, and there's a story time set up on Tuesdays and Thursdays midday. So if you're new to our community and have kids, we do have virtual programming that is happening. I'd like to invite you now to join me in our responsive reading. A planet is born, a spark ignites, something completely new comes into being. We give thanks for the mystery and miracle of life. A waterfall descends, a rainbow arcs through the sky, the ocean opens to an endless horizon. We give thanks for the mystery and miracle of beauty. The stars pierce our hearts, peace envelops us, we are blessed. We give thanks for the mystery and miracle of wonder. In the midst of pain, we find our way to hope and restoration. We give thanks for the mystery and miracle of healing. In the midst of fear, we do what is right and speak through in faith. We give thanks for the mystery and miracle of courage. In our aloneness, we see someone in the greater need and offer ourselves to them. We give thanks for the mystery and miracle of compassion. We gather in community, in relationship, in friendship, and cherish each other. We give thanks for the mystery and miracle of love. That was beautiful. Thank you, Twaman and Lenny's. I so wish I could hear that in person. Our meditation this morning comes from Elaine Kizia. I'm going to invite you all to sit back, find a comfortable spot, relax a little bit, and let us join together in the spirit of meditation or prayer. May my wisest self guide me through this day. May she remind me to look through eyes of wonder and see the abundant beauty of here and now. To live from my toes up, grounded on this precious earth and in this miraculous body. To open my heart, flinging wide its shutters so no defenses cut me off. To employ my hands to create beauty, to soothe suffering, and to unlock potentials. Eyes, feet, heart, hands. From here, I can wake to my life and the gift that it is. From here, I can move through my day with simple ease. From here, I can spread compassion and love. From here, I can mend the world. May I be in harmony today with the current that flows through all, and may I be faithful as an expression of this sacred source. Here I am. Let us settle into a short time of silent meditation together. Namaste. Amen and blessed be. Preaching in a Unitarian Universalist setting is a little bit of a strange project. While there are some overarching principles, we Unitarian Universalists embrace a wide spectrum of particular beliefs. My job isn't so much to reduce your thinking into a particular formula or doctrine. It's actually the opposite. My goal is to expand our thinking, to open new horizons of hope and possibility. I've often heard the story of when the Reverend John Wolfe, the minister at my home church when I was a child, when he interviewed for the position, he was asked if he was a theist or an atheist. And he famously responded, "That depends. If you're a theistic congregation, then I'm an atheist. But if you're an atheistic congregation, then I'm a theist." So as we dive into the topic of God for this coming month, I want to offer an unusual sermon. Today, I want to give you a picture of what I believe about the sacred. It's intended to let you get to know me a little bit better, but more than that, it's intended to invite you to explore what you believe and to find courage to speak freely about your faith. It's funny, we're very proud of our theological diversity in UU circles, but we don't spend a whole lot of time sharing with each other exactly what we do think and feel. To explain my beliefs, I want to start in a bit of an odd spot. I want to start out with a description of religious experience. Not a particular experience that I had or someone else had, but generally, what is a spiritual or religious experience? Psychology of religion is a huge academic field that goes way back. Probably the most significant figure in that field was William James. In 1901, he published the book, The Varieties of Religious Experience. Still today, 120 years later, his writing is sort of the benchmark in this field. He took a scientific approach. He actually interviewed tons of people, I think it was thousands, and compared and contrasted their experiences of spirituality. Over the past 120 years, countless other people have aimed to describe what exactly religious experience is. And this past year, I came across a model that I really like. It's a model that resonates with me, and I want to invite you to use it to think of some of your own experiences of the sacred. It comes from Jerome Stone. He says that there are three pieces of religious experience. It helps to think of it sort of as a triangle. At the peak of the triangle is our awareness of the transcendent in our lives. I'll talk more about what that vague word means in a minute. You might call it God or the sacred or something bigger than ourselves. But at the peak of the triangle is a momentary awareness of something bigger. The two base angles of the triangle form a sort of tension with each other. One of those angles is a sense of blessing, comfort, belonging. In more traditional religious language, we might call it a sense of salvation, but that's not really necessary. Comfort, belonging, it's going to be okay. That's the point. The other base of the triangle is a sense of responsibility or obligation. Again, in more traditional language, we might think of obedience or divine judgment. But for us, responsibility and obligation will do nicely. Jerome Stone offers a couple of stories from his experience to sort of explain his model. He talks about the day that he got the phone call that informed him that his father had died. He hung up the phone and slumped onto the living room sofa. His daughter was 8 years old at the time. She asked, "What's wrong?" And she cried, "Oh, Daddy," and threw her arms around him in a gigantic hug. Her hug, he explains, was an unexpected and freely given comfort and love, what religious people call grace. For him, this gift was not the work of a particular God, and it wasn't another just meaningless event either. The hug from his daughter came as a surprise. It came from outside himself at just the right time. It brought him a deep sense of deep comfort and a moment of connection with the transcendent. He tells another story from his life to talk about the call, that sense of obligation to action. Apparently in the late 1960s, it was still legal in his hometown for property owners to refuse to sell or rent housing to Jewish people or Black people. To pressure the city council into passing an open housing ordinance, the Black community, together with the liberal white community, organized weekly marches. Pulled by a moral demand to act against the discriminatory housing practices, a demand that came from outside of his everyday routine, he responded. It wasn't easy. He was a graduate student and teaching full-time and raising a family, but he juggled his schedule so that he could march. For him, the deep call to overturn immoral laws inspired him to join the protesters. His daughter's unexpected hug was a precious gift of renewal. Both the challenge and the gift came from beyond himself and his own control. He believes that a sense of grace and obligation work together to deepen our spiritual lives. I know for many of us, the transcendent is most readily experienced in nature. Every time I talk of this, I'm reminded of how often I got to walk at the beach when I lived in Laguna years ago. It's both a source of awareness of something bigger than myself and a sense of comfort and a sense of obligation that all comes at the same time. There's a sense of comfort, a sense that the web of life is truly holding us. And related to that comfort is a sense of responsibility to defend and protect the environment and the social web of the people that I love and am connected to. There's also a sense of wanting to return to that spot, to keep myself open to the awareness of the transcendent. We encounter the sacred in so many different ways in our lives. Some of you know I'm doing some research and writing about Unitarian Universalist theology as it relates to adoption of children. In the process, I've had the opportunity to interview probably 15, maybe 20 colleagues who are either adoptive parents or adoptees themselves. And their stories every one of them tells about powerful moments of awareness of the transcendent, moments when things worked out too perfectly, or moments of joy, truly holy moments. And in each of those moments, a sense of comfort and goodness emerges, as well as a sense of obligation to nurture the web of life and love that we're all a part of. I imagine, I hope, that you have your own experiences of the transcendent that you can fit into this triangle model. It might first come as a deep feeling of safety and comfort, or it might first come as a call to moral responsibility. The moments don't have to be grand. These days, many of us feel deeply moved by the acts of compassion as we come together to struggle with the coronavirus. Or even seeing family and friends on video chats can stir within us a deep appreciation, an awareness of a love that's bigger than ourselves. Well, I've used this word transcendent several times. You're probably wondering, what the heck is he talking about? So let me get a little bit more specific. When I talk about the transcendent in this sermon, or probably any time, I'm leaning toward a minimalist definition. By that, I mean the smallest, simplest, least powerful idea of transcendent. So much of religion revolves around big ideas of God. Those are the theological frameworks that talk about God being fundamentally, radically superior to anything else we know and anything else in existence. You know these: all-knowing, all-powerful, all-loving, perfect beyond human imagination, capital G, God. Those ideas bring meaning to a whole lot of people. For me, though, those claims are just too extravagant. They don't connect with what I have seen in life. Instead, I prefer to see the transcendent or the sacred as the resources that come into our lives in unexpected ways. Not magical or supernatural, but unexpected and unlikely. And the triangle model that I spoke of, our awareness of the transcendent, our awareness of something bigger, belongs at the apex of the triangle. That awareness comes in connection with both a sense of comfort and a sense of responsibility. The transcendent is good. It's not perfect or all-powerful, though. There's no promise that the transcendent, the unexpected resources of good, will win in the end. They're good, they're wonderful, but they are not all-powerful. This is where a lot of people get hung up. If there's no guarantee of victory, is this version of faith really worth it? I believe it is. In the midst of the limits of those good resources, maybe even because of their impermanence, we feel both comforted and called to respond. Now, sometimes people are inclined to sweep all those moments of transcendence, all those glimmers of goodness into one corner and suggest that there's an agenda there, an intelligence, a purpose, and they call it God. Sometimes I call it God. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes it's just appreciating each of those moments. Each little emergence of good is enough to appreciate. Whether we call it God or not, it seems to me that our task is to open ourselves to the possibility of goodness and to be willing to grow in some unexpected ways. Like I said, this sermon is mostly an invitation to you to think about and maybe even put some words to describe how you see the sacred. Many in our UU communities rest on the identity of agnostic. They don't know whether something called God exists or what it may be like. And they point out that no one knows, as a matter of fact. So humility is a good thing. Keeping space for mystery is a good thing. Taking an occasional break from gnawing on the challenges of life is a good thing. But don't let that be the end of the exploration. True agnosticism isn't throwing your hands up in defeat. True agnosticism is saying, I don't have any answer, but all these options are fascinating, and I want to learn more. Our beliefs change and grow over time. I've learned to get comfortable with that. For some reason, early on, I thought as a minister, I needed a more concrete, unchanging belief system. You've probably heard the not very tactful statement, there are no atheists in foxholes. There is something to be learned from this wrong-headed assessment of faith. There are no atheists in foxholes. What we can learn is that our beliefs change depending on our circumstances. In peaks and valleys of our life journey, different beliefs serve us differently. Over the course of our lives, the project is to compile those beliefs that serve us both in times of struggle and in times of joy. So pay attention in this very, very peculiar moment of human history. Pay attention to what you're thinking and feeling right now about the wider world, the web of life, and the sacred that rests in people. Pay attention. Does your childhood faith hold up to a global pandemic? Does your skepticism provide the hope that you need to weather the storm? Good, helpful belief systems aren't something that we read out of a book. They're rooted in our experience in the world, so pay attention. And when you have an idea about where the sacred lives and how to reach out to it, don't be afraid to share with us what you've learned. We can all use some of the hope and the wisdom that you have to share. Amen.
aged thistle, grass and root, herbs to heal us, plants to feed us, land to till and tend and plow. With a pendant deep as midnight north, we ask you, be here now. Father, ere your inspiration holds together all that lives, as we breathe our minds see clearly, leading us to love and give. Raging whirlwind, whispered breezes, violent gale and gentle cloud, with the blade as sharp as morning, east we ask you, be here now. Brother fire, great transformer, share the passion of the sun. In our hearts to warmth revives us, cooks our food and heats our homes. Flaming candle blood within us, blazing desert will to grow. With the one directing power, south we ask you, be here now. Sister water ever flowing, ocean, river, pond, and rain, drink we now and quench our thirsting, cleanse us, we begin again. Mist and ice, a host of changes, all that courage will allow. With the cup, the holy chalice, west we ask you, be here now. Love, spirit, intuition, in the center of our souls. In your love we find relation, all connected we are whole. Timeless mystery, quiet conscience, deepest values voice inside. With the drum and with the cauldron, this we ask you, be our guide.
We extinguish this flame, knowing the light remains in the warmth and compassion of our hearts until we are together again.
I would invite you to look around the room if we were in our sanctuary, but instead I want to invite you to scroll through the participants in this Zoom call. We're going to take a moment to do this for you to see each other and to be seen. It will soon be time for us to depart from our virtual gathering. Before we go our ways, let us pause to hold one another in our hearts and feel the comfort of knowing that we are each held in the loving embrace of this community. Friends, it's good to be with you. Until we meet again, go in peace and let the light within you be a blessing to the world.